Hi, it's Jess Boulton here from the Daily Mirror, and I'm here today looking forward to a great big week in one of my favourite soaps. Scrap that, my favourite soap next week, which is Hollyoaks, and it's a big drama week for two of my favourite characters. And I'm joined with them today. It's Anna Passey, who Sienna Blake. And the lovely Jane Sutton, John Paul McQueen. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
No problem.
Now, it's a big week coming up next week, isn't it? Because we've got two big storylines, one for both of you, and we're going to see some really sort of eventful stuff, as if you haven't had enough thrown at you already. But I'm really looking forward to this, because we feel a bit of cheering up needed at lockdown at the moment. Summer and Sienna first, Anna. I mean, they're both femme fatales, aren't they, Hollyoaks? And can you give us a little hint of what's going to happen next week, a little teaser?
Yes, of course I can. So yes, Summer versus Sienna. The audience now has got to know Summer a little bit more, and I think that they know that she's quite a tough cookie. And obviously her father Cormac is in a coma, but he wakes up, and so that causes a lot of panic with Warren and with Felix and Brody, because they put him in the coma. So they decide that they have to take matters into their own hands, and they're going to go and kill off Cormac. But unfortunately, Summer overhears their plan. So now she knows that everybody was involved in it, and she wants some answers.
And I think I'm allowed to say she's found a gun. So it looks like somebody's going to be in trouble. And I mean, you've had your share of being in and out of the hospital. So is it going to be a big tense week? And is it a week that's going to be quite difficult to have filmed?
Yeah, it's definitely a tense week, because I think the audience have got an inclination that Summer has a bit more going on than maybe we realise. And as you say, she finds a gun because she lives with Grace, so of course she finds a gun. And I think the big question is, what is she going to do? Will she calm herself down, or who's in trouble if not? You know, what lengths will she go to? And obviously Brody, Felix and Warren are all involved in putting Cormac in the hospital, and although Sienna wasn't directly involved, she is involved. So yeah, I think everybody's in trouble, and everybody should watch out.
And I mean, obviously you love playing Sienna, and what a great character, but she isn't someone you would want to take on willingly, is she?
No, and I think that's what's so great about these two characters going against each other, is I think they've both underestimated each other. So I think Summer doesn't know who she's messing with when she starts messing with Sienna, and I think Sienna just thinks she's this little girl who bakes cupcakes and that she will be no threat. But I think what the audience has the information on is that both of these women are trouble. So it's going to be so interesting to see them go head to head and see what happens. I think they've met their match.
It's going to be a proper like dynasty style cat fight, isn't it? That's what I'm looking forward to.
The best.
We're like, put her in the fountain. Alexis. And James, obviously you've got a huge story as well next week. We've been watching this kind of really destructive relationship with John Paul and George, and it's all about coercive control, isn't it? Which is a very important situation. What's it like to be doing a storyline like this? Because it is very important for the people out there who might not recognise that they are in that kind of situation until they see it on the screen.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that Hollyoaks does really, really well. You know, we tackle these issues that affect a lot of people, certainly with our demographic as well, and it's very, very topical right now. Domestic abuse and domestic violence has gone up a lot in lockdown, and you know, it's another story that needs telling, and in a gay relationship as well, which is maybe not is explored very often. So Callum and I, who plays George, we've been working really hard and working with the producers and with researchers. You know, they've been in touch with charities and stuff, just to make sure that everything is, you know, as it should be, really, because it's a sensitive subject and it affects a lot of people. So there's a kind of, I wouldn't say there's a pressure on us per se, but you know, we want to get it right, and we want it, you know, we want it to be a truthful story, and we want it to be something that, you know, people are talking about. It's because it's important.
It is important, especially like you say now at this time. We've seen the numbers of domestic violence go up during lockdown, you know, so much. There's a message here from Rachel, which is similar to what we've just said. Is how does it feel to have John Paul highlight the controlling relationships again, and how easy to be controlled? Like you said, it can be very easy to be controlled in ways that it doesn't have to be such an overt domestic violence. Like I think we're seeing like George is basically tearing away John Paul's family and his career, isn't he? And it's more subtle than that until this week.
Yeah, and John Paul's quite an intelligent guy. He's a lot smarter than I am, and he's, you know, and he's been through you know, traumatic experiences before. He's got experience of these kind of abuse. You know, I did a male rape storyline a few years ago. You know, there are parallels to be drawn with that. But you know, domestic abuse and it doesn't just affect you know, a certain type of person. It can affect anyone. So this kind of coercive control, which is the kind of route that we've gone, really interesting. It's been really fascinating to play. And you're absolutely right. It's about you know, he wants John Paul to be in turmoil. The more in turmoil John Paul is, the better for George. He wants him to start messing up at work and you know, letting his career slide a little bit. He wants him to start falling out with his friends and his family and lying to them, and George starts to encourage bad behaviour in John Paul as well. He encourages him to open another bottle of wine of an evening, and you know, so he's going to work a little bit hungover sometimes, and just these little things that just start to sort of take root in John Paul and sort of slightly start to break him down a little bit. And it's been really interesting to play, and that's the sort of stage where we're at now, and going into the big week that you mentioned next week, is when his friends and family start to really cotton on that things are quite right. He's supposed to be applying for a head teacher's job, and there's an application form there, and he just keeps putting it off, and George keeps encouraging him to put it off and playing the victim whenever John Paul says, no, I've got to do this work. I can't drink wine with you and party. I've got to focus. And George sort of puts the pressure on him and makes him feel bad for not, you know, giving George all his time. And it just sort of starts to break him down, and he starts to, he starts to sort of personality-wise, things start to change, and his friends and family start to notice in the next week. And it kind of hots up from there, really.
And it hots up from there. And Matea on here, she's saying, "Will James be one of the first to spot George's abuse?" And she means James on the show, not you, James. Will he be one of the first to spot George's abuse since he went through a similar situation? I don't know how much of the story you can give away. I think things come to a head when you get a little bit tables turn and people think you're the one in the bad. You're the bad one in the relationship this week, don't they? I can say that much without giving anything away.
Yeah. It's George is kind of the sort of master manipulator, and he's very good at sort of thinking on his feet and using kind of any opportunity he can to sort of belittle John Paul and make him a target, really. And so George accidentally hurts himself. He bashes his face, and he doesn't blame John Paul, but he doesn't put it to bed straight away. He lets people think that it might have been John Paul, and that's how rumours start. And before you know it, people are accusing John Paul of being the aggressor, of being the violent one in the relationship, which is exactly what, goes back to what I was saying before. The more turmoil that John Paul is in, and the more chaos surrounding him, the better for George, because it means he can get him on his own, and John Paul will start to rely on George.
And what's it been like for both of you? Because we're now back to 5 nights a week. Obviously, it's been difficult on set since the very first lockdown, and you were off for a while, then you all come back. What's it currently like filming on the set?
I think we have got into a rhythm with it. So obviously all the the different things that we had to implement, all the different safety measures, all the social distancing to start with was all a really different way of working. But I think everybody's really excited to be working again and so happy to be working again. And like you say, we're back to 5 nights a week, which is excellent. So weirdly, it doesn't feel that abnormal anymore, because I think we've all just sort of slotted in and got on with the new protocols. Everything's really clear. So it doesn't actually feel that strange anymore.
Is there still the same camaraderie backstage? Do you get to hang out with each other still, or are you talking about WhatsApp groups? Or
that's the only thing that we've had to sort of lose is the social aspect of it. Hollyoaks and Line Pictures and Channel 4 have done an amazing job at keeping us all safe. It's a huge studio. There's hundreds of people coming and going every day, as you'd imagine. And it's no mean feat to keep everyone safe. But what it does mean is that the green room and the canteen and all the kind of hanging out backstage social stuff, that we love, that unfortunately has to go at the moment. But we all still keep in touch, and we do see each other occasionally, and we do occasionally have scenes, with one another, which is always lovely.
Yeah. We've got a question here from Sue Boulton, who I've got to confess is my mother, but she's a big Hollyoaks fan, and she wanted to get a question in. So I've got both my parents love Hollyoaks, right? So I converted them from EastEnders. So I should probably not say that. Don't listen, people. Anyway, how do you both go home and not take the drama with you? She says.
Woof. Yoga and running. I think I found it really important when I have the sort of more hectic Sienna storylines. I would just build in a little bit of yoga or running or something that separated my day. I think I'd normally do it with a long drive, but I live about 5 minutes from the studio, so that wasn't enough. So I have some sort of exercise to separate Sienna and me, and then I can go home. More me than Sienna.
Yeah, because you've had some crazy storylines that you must have to really come out of at the end of the day, and you, James, there must be some days where you finish and you think you must be emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, I don't find it hard to switch off, but I think it is the exhaustion, especially 6-7 scenes a day, big page count, lots of words, and and when you're doing storylines like this, often it's all heavy stuff. Every scene has a big story point in it, a big beat that we need to hit, and it's important, and we really care about it. And I'm just exhausted when I get home. I just want to have my tea and go to bed and learn my lines for the next day. That's kind of how it is.
Right. So obviously there's been a lot of talk about how to do this sort of more intimate scenes on any soap because of the coronavirus, and I know there's a lot of talk about bringing in body doubles. Before I do that, I'm just going to put this message up from Marilyn that's just popped up here. Marilyn Cross: hi, I'm 67 and I've been watching Hollyoaks from when it first started. I love it, she said.
Yeah, so, nice one, Marilyn.
One of your fans on there. So so you've got body doubles coming in to help do the romantic scenes. Now, obviously for you, Anna, it's going to be slightly weird because Kyle used to be on Hollyoaks, obviously, and if people don't know, he played Laurie, who was actually sort of your enemy on the soap because he was sexually harassing Sienna. And he was killed off in the soap as well. So he's now back on the scene. What was it like when he comes back to film these?
It's great. I think we were so lucky in that situation because Kyle can double for, I think the storyline at the time was that Sienna was having an affair with Warren, but she's with Brody, and Kyle can double for both Warren and Brody. So it was really lucky. And as you said, he worked there for such a long time. So he
Warren,
knows everybody, so it was quite a nice, he was really happy to come in and help because soaps are so much about snogging and being tactile, fighting and all those things. And I think that they've been very clever with not trying to lose it all and find ways to keep those moments that we need to see in a soap. So Kyle was really happy to do it, and it was nice for him to kind of be back on set and to catch up with everybody and to help me out. So
and
it's good.
to see is it slightly bizarre that you had that kind of storyline together, and then you got to switch off when you both go home, but if you have a row, does he give you that sort of evil Laurie look that he did so well on the soap?
Do you know what? I think anyone that knows Kyle will know I'm not being smug here, but he's the nicest man. So I think it's strange when people sort of see him and think of Laurie, because he couldn't be less like Laurie in real life, thankfully. He's such a nice man. So we don't really do rowing, and we don't really do Laurie moments. So yeah, it's completely separate. But I think for the audience, they must find it strange to see us together.
Yeah.
Like, oh, get away from him. He's a wrong un.
Yeah, he's definitely a wrong one. He's like, because you've launched your own little, you've launched a candle company together as well, haven't you, in lockdown?
Yeah, we have.
Where's that come from?
We have a really domestic candle business, which again, it could be less sort of less Laurie or more far removed from all the dramatic soap stuff. We have a really nice, wholesome business together.
And what sparked that, for want of a better word?
Oh, well, funnily enough, but going back to your mum's question, you said, how do you switch off?
Yeah.
The candle making was Kyle's switching off. So he worked on Home and Away for years, and he would go home and make candles as his kind of chill time and like a little bit of a relaxation time. And I'm a candle addict, so that worked out really well. And so I came home one day after he'd had a particularly heavy lorry day at Hollyoaks, and he'd made so many candles and they were just most excellent. So I was like, we should make more of these. And then friends and family wanted them, and now we have a whole business. So kind of just happened.
It's fantastic. So it's like you weren't resting around when you were at home on the time off.
No, not so good at sitting still. I think that's the problem.
And James, obviously a little bit tricky for your spouse to come in as a body double, because Rachel doesn't really look anything like George. What was that? Sorry?
I said she couldn't be more different.
No, exactly. So I mean, obviously you got married. Was it 2 years ago you got married now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what was it? What? How are you doing these things? Like, what are you going to be doing?
What am I going to be doing?
Yeah, in terms of bringing in body doubles and things like that.
We've already. I've shot a couple of scenes. I think I'm allowed to talk about this, but I think Hollyoaks released some pictures of it. But I did a couple of scenes with Kieran Richardson, who plays my ex-husband on the show, Steve Hay, and we had to get quite sort of close in the scene. I won't spoil anything for anybody, but obviously because of COVID we can't. So they brought in Carl, Kieran's husband, and they put him in one of John Paul's jackets and my jeans. And it wasn't bad, actually. I mean, look, if I do say so myself, look, he's a good-looking fella. So, not my words. So yeah, it works really well, and it's cool that that there are little tricks and little ways around it. I know some of the other soaps have done stuff with perspex, and we've done quite a bit of shooting, locking a camera off and shooting an intimate scene with one actor and the other actor out of shot, and then bringing them in and moving the other actor out and putting the two shots together so it looks like they're really close. It's really clever stuff. It
is really clever stuff, isn't it? It must be taking a lot longer to film everything, but it's very clever because you can't really tell when you're watching it. You forget about all the things that you must be having to do behind the scenes. We got a question here which I was going to come on to a bit later as well, but Emily French here says, what's your favourite storyline for your character so far? Ooh, big question.
Want to go?
You've got to think back quite away.
Go on, Anna.
Okay, so I think my favourite is not the whole storyline, but my favourite chunk of stuff to film was the Halloween Spooktacular that Hollyoaks did. Yeah. It was so much fun to do, and obviously I had my nightmare Nico child on the loose. Warren was trying to find her. The police was trying to find her. Duncan from Blue was trying to find her, and there was a huge carnival going on in the Hollyoaks village. So it involved most of the characters in the show, and there was stunts and fire and some brilliant scenes. And I really look at that time fondly, and I really enjoyed doing it. I think Hollyoaks does those stunts so well that are so fun to watch and so exciting. So yeah, for me, that was probably my favourite bit of story.
That was a great bit of story. And if anyone's just become a fan of Hollyoaks, Duncan from Blue was actually playing a character, not just Duncan from Blue. Maybe just and James, what about you? What's your favourite John Paul moment? I mean, there must be so many.
Yeah, I'm older than I look. I've been on the show for quite a while now. I mean, there's loads of stuff that I'm proud of. You know, some of the issue-based stuff that we've done. The male rape storyline that I mentioned earlier, I'm really proud of. But yeah, Anna's right. I mean, it's hard sometimes to look past the big, the big episodes, the big stunts, and the big ensemble pieces. There's lots of cast involved, and they often film at night. We a few years, God, it was about 10 years plus now. We blew a church up. For a late night episode, and a good pal of mine was playing my brother Niall, and he got buried by the rubble, and my sister on the show died, and there was rubble everywhere and explosions and dust, and it was, and we filmed it in a haunted abbey or something somewhere in the middle of nowhere. That was great fun. I love those things because it feels super exciting to us as well. Like if you're filming somewhere different and it's always at night. It's exciting. Yeah, we love all that.
There is so much excitement with that, and I remember that one vividly. The big build up to Niall revealing he was the son, and then she had to pick one of the daughters that was going to, and then the whole thing. I mean, honestly, when you get a big stunt week, it is phenomenal. You always do them so well, and you were both in the train crash when you for a couple of years ago. I think what is it, about 2014? I want to say the train crash. It's longer ago than it feels. Which I think we've got some pictures of at the end there. If we can show them, because that stunt was fantastic as well, wasn't it? Anna, what was that like to film?
Yeah, really, really fun. We had a great time. I think it kind of ticked every box of what you want to see in Hollyoaks. It was a big McQueen's wedding on a train, of course. And you had all the kind of fun of that. But then on the other hand, you had Patrick, who played my father. No, Jeremy Sheffield, who played Patrick, my father, on the show. And he was up to no good. And he was sort of after Maxine's character, who was heavily pregnant in a mini. And we were on the train lines. And so there was these two crazy stories going on, and I think they were so exciting to watch. I think I watched them as an audience member, as a viewer, and even I was on the edge of my seat, and I knew exactly what was coming. And we had a really great time. It was all filmed in summer, and we were on location, and a great team working on it. So yeah, it was brilliant.
Do you ever, when you get your scripts, like how far in advance will you know what's coming up? Like, is it sort of like roughly the whole storyline for something coming up, if it's a sort of big thing like with Nico, or are you sort of going a couple of weeks at a time? And can you ever has there ever been a time where you've wanted to sort of input and say, actually, I think it should be more like Sienna would do this or John Paul would do this?
Usually your story arc, so generally, say for the year, what your character's going to be doing, and if you're involved in maybe an issue storyline or another type of storyline, you'll know the rough arc of it, but you don't know all the details. So you can find yourself in a position where you're getting your scripts and you're reading them excited to find out what's going to happen. So you don't know everything. You know most of what's going to go on, but there'll be some little surprises or perhaps some changes or something you didn't know about. So it's quite exciting when you first pick them up, and you're reading them the way an audience member will watch them for the first time, because you're seeing exactly how all the details and the finer aspects of it play out.
Yeah. We've got a little question up here. Will Sienna and Summer become friends?
I don't know. It's a great question. I think they're such enemies, but it's a fine line, isn't it, between being an enemy of someone and then maybe finding something that you admire in the other person as well, and think, hold on, maybe we're more similar than I would like to admit. So I don't know. I mean, Brody's in the middle, and they both really want Brody, so I'm not sure they can be mates, but we will see.
No, get rid of her. Sienna will get rid of her. Honestly, a bit of poisoning, I don't know. I've got a little bit of a game we're going to do, because you've both had such amazing storylines over the time. And obviously, as John Paul is a member of the McQueen family, which has certainly been a little bit dramatic, I think it's fair to say. I've got a little bit of a game, which is I'm going to tell you some little storylines, and I want you to tell me whether it happened to Sienna, the McQueens, or both. Okay, so I've just got a few examples on my sheet here for you. So first of all, someone taking someone hostage.
That's got to be both, hasn't it?
Yeah, I definitely was involved in some hostage taking, and
both. You've both done a bit of that. Both been a bit of that, and John Paul's been taken hostage. Sienna's been taken hostage, so you've both done a bit of that. Second up, and I think we got a lovely shot to go with this one of John Paul in a cupboard potentially. Who has slept with one of their relatives? Is it Sienna, McQueen's, or both?
Oh, it's both.
James, I couldn't resist this picture because this was one of my favourites. This is when you're having the affair with Lockie, your brother-in-law.
Out of all the screen grabs that you could have used, that was the one that you went, yeah, that's the one. That's definitely the one we'll use. Thanks.
James, wasn't this on the eve of their wedding as well, or something terrible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, well, I hope you don't mind us using that one, but that's probably one of the. That is a great funny scene of John Paul's, isn't it?
It was a lot of fun to film that whole storyline, because it's one of those ones where you know, Lockie and John Paul were kind of hiding in the beds and in cupboards and round corners, you know, having sneaky snogs and all that kind of caper and that carry on. That's always a lot of fun. Yeah, it was quite light-hearted. It was good.
It was as light-hearted as it can be when you're sort of stealing your future brother-in-law. Really, I suppose it was good times.
Yeah. John Paul pretends that he's an upstanding member of the community, but he's not really. He's a wrong one.
He's a wrong one. And Anna, obviously, you had that storyline which was quite early on for Sienna, where it all comes out about Dodger and who is the father of your long lost daughter, but also happens to be your twin that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, we affectionately called it Brunkle Dodger.
So I mean, obviously that was Sienna's sort of slip up with a relative. I mean, I've got to admit, I actually really quite like them two together until you remember that they're twins, and then you're like, okay, no, it's a bit wrong.
Yeah. Arguably, I think Dodger is the most perfect man for Sienna. Again, you have to remember though they are twins, so probably not. But yeah. Before she sort of took him hostage again, I mean, obviously that probably put a bit of a downer on the relationship, I suppose. Yeah, it wasn't a great way to propose. I think marriage was what she was proposing. I think it was the best way to go about it.
The next one is someone who reunites with a long lost child. Now again, is it Sienna, McQueen's, or both of you?
Both.
Yeah, we're doing really well, aren't we?
Yeah,
you're doing really well. Yeah,
more in common than I realised.
Yeah. You have a storyline together. We've never really had a storyline together.
Yeah, we could compare.
And they're all quite different storylines, but when you look at them, they are, the similar things happen. Obviously, you had Matthew turn up on the doorstep, and Nico, obviously. I mean, what can we say about Nico? My next one was anyone killed a family member.
It was an accident, though.
That's not the point.
You hit her on the head with a
Look at me defending her even on the day off. Yes, Sienna did accidentally kill Nico in the end, but someone was going to do it.
Someone was going to do it. It's better she did it than someone else. Better her than a stranger. And John Paul hasn't, as far as I remember. And I've been looking through. Now, it does get complicated because even though I've watched it since the beginning, there's so many of these storylines that some of them, yeah.
Even I'm racking my brains when you're asking these questions. I'm thinking, have I killed him? It's entirely possible.
And maybe still to come. Is there somebody that you've got your eye in the cast that you'd quite like to?
I wouldn't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there are a couple of those McQueens that they're quite loud. You know, I'm not saying they deserve to die, but you know,
maybe they can go and live with Jackie in Spain.
Yeah, Alicante.
And my last one is anyone that has been thought to be dead and come back from the dead, as Sienna, the McQueens as a whole, or both of you.
Oh,
I've definitely died.
You have, yeah.
And I actually wrote on your Twitter and said, I'm really sad to see that you're going. And then I was totally, caught by that.
I know. we were really me and the producers we were worried for the whole time that I was dead, because we felt awful that we couldn't admit it, but it was so worth it for the kind of twist of the story.
People were genuinely heartbroken, Anna.
Yeah.
People were really heartbroken.
I know. It's awful, but also, not many people get to get the reaction of, I think Sienna came into her own funeral, so not many people get to see all the lovely things that people would say about them and then come in. So that was fun.
And it is obviously both of you, because, well, not both of you, but the McQueens as well, because of Mercedes faking her death, and Myra as well. So you next, John Paul, you got to do it. You've got to do it. And my last one was faking being pregnant, but I realised that that's actually probably a giveaway who's done that. I don't think we've ever had that. Yeah, you were Darren.
I just kept my hand up, shouldn't I? The game.
Right near the beginning, and obviously that's with Nancy, when we see one of the very first storylines when you came in, when you were sort of pretty much pure evil / misunderstood, and you were faking the pregnancy, split them all up, causing ruptures in the village. But you and Jessica that plays Nancy are really good friends, aren't you, in real life?
Yeah, I couldn't love her anymore. I think I felt so lucky to come into that storyline and to be working with the people that I was working with, because they're so, Jess and Ash and Jeremy, everyone's so good.
Oh, we lost you for a sec. We can't hear you.
Oh, I went away. I'm so sorry. There we go. I'm back. Yes, we definitely are kind of bestie pals from the show, so that's nice. And I remember that was quite strange for people to start with as well. When they would see us out and about together, they would be like, "Nancy, stay away." But yes, I love her.
And you were going to be a bridesmaid, weren't you? Or
yeah, so Jess asked me to be a bridesmaid, which was so lovely. And I did actually make it to her getting married kind of day. And I don't know whether we will ever get to wear the lovely dresses and do a proper
ceremony, yeah.
But fingers crossed. But yeah, she asked me to be a bridesmaid. How lovely.
That is lovely. It is lovely. And she looked gorgeous in her, because she got married, but she said she was still going to do the big wedding afterwards when she can, obviously, with a Korean and everything. We've got a question here from Ashley Hope. Is there ever a time when you went off script?
Doesn't really work like that.
No, it's the writers. They work really, really hard, and the script editors. Yeah. Everything's quite specific. We have conversations with directors and stuff on a sort of regular basis. If a line needs to be kind of switched around, or maybe something doesn't sound quite right, and we can tweak little things. But as a rule, we try and stick to the script, because you never know if something were to change, or if you were to say something that wasn't scripted, it might impact something further down the line. So because it's a continuing drama, there's a lot of points that we need to hit, and we can't really deviate, or it might mess up everything going forward. So no, I've done it on stage a long time ago. I was doing a play. What was I doing? I was doing View from a Bridge. And, an actor missed his cue and didn't come on stage, so I had to improvise on my own for about a minute and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which felt like about half an hour at the time.
Yeah.
Just sort of pottering around on stage, muttering to myself, and yeah. Oh, I've just got like cold sweat thinking about it.
Yeah, right. Because you've both done other stuff as well. You know, like whilst being on the soap, and when you took a break and you went to Emmerdale for a couple of years, would we see you maybe return to Emmerdale, or are you?
Not at the moment. I had a really wonderful time on Emmerdale, but it was quite a specific contract. I was for sort of two and a half years, I think, with a family, and they'd already sort of mapped out a storyline, and it kind of played out, and it was sort of bookended perfectly as well. There was a proper sort of beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And equally, I'm having a ball on Hollyoaks, so I'm haven't really got any plans to go anywhere anytime soon.
What about you, Anna? You've done like loads of films and things as well. I mean, I know that quite a lot of your cast have all done the Hollywood thing, where you've gone out there. You know, Jamie's obviously been out there. You've got Ricky Whittle, done amazing, and Natalie Emmanuel. Would you both want to give that a try and try that, or do you prefer? Are you sort of, is your heart in being in Hollyoaks?
I think Sienna's too hard to leave. I don't know how I'd ever leave her. She's just great. So for me, I'm kind of happy where I am. Yeah, she's kind of my dream character, really. She's great.
She's such a fantastic character that you could play in so many different ways. I mean, you've had so many different things already, and James, obviously, you've done, like, we talked about the sort of the male rape storyline, which anyone who didn't watch it was particularly harrowing, because it was you when you were a teacher, and it was a pupil, and it was all about the power and the control. And I mean, this sort of stuff that you've had to do, you must be very, very proud of all the people that you've helped, and you, Anna, as well, with some of yours. Do you still get sort of messages in from people saying thank you for doing that, and are there any that sort of stand out above others for that reason, for helping people?
I don't know if there's ones that stand out more than others. I'm an ambassador. Let me put my teeth in. I am an ambassador. I can't even speak. It's a good job. It's a good job this isn't live. I'm an ambassador. There we go. I'm an ambassador for Survivors Manchester, which is a male rape support group. It's a charity, and I do a lot of work with them. And that storyline, it really did make a difference. You know, soap is incredibly important. Incredibly important. You know, you look across the board at some of the stuff that Coronation Street have done as well, and EastEnders, you know, Emmerdale, of course. And it can make a difference. You know, you're in people's living rooms, you know, 5 nights a week, and telling, you know, you can tell really important stories, and people see, you know, a reflection of themselves or their lives or things they've gone through. And the Ministry of Justice, actually, on the back of the male rape storyline, put so much pressure on the government that they eventually gave an awful lot more funding to male victims of rape, which had never been kind of done before. So it had an actual tangible kind of difference. It made a tangible difference in lives, which is incredible, really, for what we do. So yeah, I mean, we're all super proud of the work we do, and we really enjoy it as well. It's kind of the best of both worlds, really.
I mean, it's such a lovely set. I've been able to come up. I was so lucky on a couple of times before the virus, and it's such a lovely atmosphere around there. I mean, you guys, it's such a good yeah, I'm sure it must be such a fun place to work. And I mean, you had some cracking relationships, both of you, on screen, and you know, I was still a fan of you and John Paul and Craig is still my favourite relationship. I'm waiting for them to bring him back, so you know, maybe one day.
Yeah, never say never.
Never say never. But yeah, do you still speak to Guy, or?
Yeah, very occasionally. Yeah, I've had the odd random message now and again out of the blue. He's a big star now. He's doing some really good work. He's done some really good films out there, and he pops up in really random kind of dramas and things that you don't expect, and you think, geez, that's Craig from Hollyoaks. But yeah, he's doing really well. He's a super chap. It's great. You know, you mentioned Natalie Emmanuel and Ricky Whittle. And it's great that people from, go on from Hollyoaks to go and do really good things, because there's some super talented actors out there. And it's a great place to kind of cut your teeth and get experience and try different things out and grow as an actor. Yes.
And what's your dream storyline for both of your characters? What would you like to happen, just in case the script writers are watching? I believe your boss are probably watching, so put it out there. What would you like to see happen?
You know what, I was thinking about this not long ago, actually, and I genuinely couldn't think of anything that I was like, oh, that's really on my list, because even just in the conversation going back there of how many things Sienna has done, but I guess to give some sort of an answer, I would quite like to see Sienna and Warren perhaps have some sort of couple-based therapy. I'd quite like to see them go to a retreat or something and talk about their differences and where they went wrong. I'd quite like to see that. I feel like I would like a bit of closure for Sienna on that relationship.
I think that would blow the therapist's mind, but I think that would be And what about you, James?
Goodness me, so that's a tough question. I guess I've never played many. I haven't played many villains. I played a couple of villains at drama school, but yeah, I've never. Maybe John Paul could become a villain. That might be something different.
Yeah, he could have had enough of being the nice guy that always ends up having the the hard end things. Yeah, I'm liking that.
He finally snaps. He finally snaps and goes on a murderous rampage. Because you haven't been a serial killer, and I think you could be. Yes, give us an evil face. Thank you so much, guys, for everything today. You've been absolutely brilliant, and I've loved talking to you. And I'm looking forward to next week, because it's going to be 2 very big things happening, which we can tease. And both of you are involved, so I can't say more than that, otherwise I will get a phone call. But looking forward to it, guys, and thank you so much for joining me today. It's been brilliant, and thank you everyone for your questions.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Bye.